What's up, the internet? It's me, it's Kyle. How's it going? Welcome in. This is the EXP Expo 2022, the one with all the twos. And we are continuing the EXP Expo tonight with a new friend, a person whose company name is the best name that we've had on the experience on the EXP Expo yet. Everybody, welcome in Nicole Fernandez.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. A little cold, but still not too bad. It's toasty in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in Texas, right?
Yeah, I'm in Texas, kind of like where Jen Store's located, so not too far.
Okay, so how cold is it there?
40 degrees is cold for me, but my husband makes fun of me because he's from Boston, so it's snowy up there. So this is like baby cold weather to him. But when it starts being 80 during the day and then quickly goes to 40 within 2 days, it takes a bit of adjusting to do.
Oh, sure, that kind of drop is crazy. I mean, but like here it's like 8.
But at least you guys get snow. I know it's funny that normally people from the south that don't get snow, like we love seeing it, but then everyone up north is like, I hate this stuff. You would not love it. You have to shovel it. Your door's frozen solid and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah. It looks nice.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's crazy. So let's start here. Tell me where Bad Taco came from.
It came from an idea I had since I was in high school. I used to draw this little taco character, and after a few years of working like in the industry for manufacturing and putting stuff out on store floors and things like that, like displays, I was like, I should just make my own brand. I can draw my own little cute creatures. So initially I wanted to be called Bad Apple, but there is a really cool clothing store in New York that has that name, so it just went with second best. And I was like, well, Bad Taco, it'd just be awesome.
Well, I think that's a cooler name, like, and
thank you.
like Bad Apple just sound like, that's nothing. Bad Taco, because there's so many implications there, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to be like, bad isn't cool and not like
right.
a nasty tasting taco, but I just wanted something cute and that could kind of fit with, I guess, like cute, but like cool looking stuff at the same time. So if I ever wanted to switch it up, because I do like, like cute stuff like Pokemon and like, you see all the plushies back there, but then I love awesome looking things like Monster Hunter and Magic the Gathering that have like really cool detailed designs. So it's like, if I can just steer any way I want to, then this name should fit.
See, I assumed it was a taco that could kick your ass.
Yes, that's too. It's just,
like
he's a
bad in that regard. So
he's a mix of both. He's cute, but he's like, I could.
Cute but stabby.
Yeah, like cute, stabby, and spicy. Has that kick.
I like it.
Thank you.
So how did you come to cartooning? Like, how did you decide to kind of come to this chibi sort of art style in cartooning?
Well, I have like a degree in computer animation, but I didn't get my foot too much in the door because at the time the industry wasn't doing too hot. So I've always been drawn to just cute little anime little styles like Tokidoki and Sanrio and San-X. Like they all have these cute little creatures that for some reason you just love how stupid cute they look. And so I wanted to do something, in my own style that way, so I can bring a little bit of happiness to people when they just see it. They don't even know the story. They're like, look at that cute thing. It just makes me happy looking at it. So I want to try to do that.
So the photo you sent for your little promo was a plushie, and I see on
there's a plushie in there. Yeah, it's not my plushie, but it was taken in Japan before the pandemic, and my husband won it from one of the crane games, and I was just so happy that I got it. So
well, crane games in Japan are like a whole different thing.
They're so much easier.
They're a whole different level than here.
You win better stuff. They have so much cool stuff. There's like anything from like a huge thing of Pringles to winning like a Kirby lamp or like so you can see like this little blue striped ball in the back. That's actually a pufferfish, and he won that too. And you turn it on, it starts shaking. I don't know why. It's what it does. But yeah, their stuff it's so awesome when you go over there. It's a different experience, like a good winning experience, and it's just enjoyable.
There's a crane game at an arcade near to me where they put Squishmallows.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And the thing about them is that they're so soft and fluffy
You can't grab
that
them.
I want to win them. But then, like, I'm like, what do I do with this now that I've won it? Like, I could pet it for a couple of minutes, and then it's like, what do I do with it? So I just wound up winning them and like giving them to random children and stuff.
But that too.
But
I mean, kids will get excited for that, but
right.
they're almost like stress balls in a way. So
You're right. So you mentioned that your art style and the stuff on the website kind of lends itself to that kind of plushy sort of feel.
Mhm.
Have you thought about producing a plushie? Have you done that? What does that look like?
I have with a different company. We were trying to. There was one company I worked for where I was the lead artist, and towards the end of that company's life, we were making plushies, but there were some logistic issues, so it didn't fully go mainstream. I would love to make one, but they're really expensive to make, and then you have to go. You're going back and forth basically of like, this is what I want it to look like. That's wrong. Let's keep going and going. And then I know these days, because stuff is stuck like on boats and stuff, you do have a lot more fees than what it used to be. So I would love to make one in the future. I just know it's too risky for me right now.
Yeah, I have a friend who has a comic book coming out, and they did a plushie of the main character as a Kickstarter reward.
Oh,
And he's
Kickstarter
like,
is awesome for that kind of stuff. Yeah.
well, but he sent out an update going, look, the books are here, but it might be another 6 months before we get these plushies. So it's gonna be 6 months till you get your books.
The unfortunate thing about it. So
absolutely. So do you have a favorite? You kind of you've mentioned a lot of anime, a lot of your inspirations, but do you have kind of a favorite anime or a favorite comic or something that you draw inspiration from?
So, oh man, there's quite a few. So I mostly play a lot of video games, so I get a lot of inspiration from that. So like,
okay, favorite video game.
there's so many, but I guess if I had to, I mean, just for nostalgia purposes, like Pokemon, like the original ones, especially like Gold and Silver, those are my favorite, just because it had amazing end game back then, and games didn't have that much. But even then, now they don't. You have to pay for your end game sometimes, but that was a whole awesome experience growing up, because yeah, we didn't have the internet, but you would get those little magazines and be like, look at the new ones in here, and there'd be fake ones, and you're with your friends trying to like decide your team before it even like begins. And then like Digimon and Kirby and those kind of games too were always a lot of fun. As far as comics go, I do have a soft spot for Batman comics. Just, I don't know why, I love all the villains that they have. It's always so creative, and then I just like Batman. So Shanice will agree with me. So, those ones I like a lot. I'm trying to think if for like a manga, I guess Naruto, because I grew up on that too, like ninjas and stuff. So there's a lot out there that I could list, So I guess
Normally,
more
I save
recent,
this question. Normally, I save this question for the end. But who's your favorite Pokemon?
Okay, hold on.
I'll tell you mine.
Oh yeah, tell me yours first.
It's Snorlax.
Okay, he's awesome. I mean,
Yeah, because he's super relatable.
And he's overpowered in a way too. Like, if you have him on your team, he's not gonna die instantly. It'll be a little hard to knock out, at least in one hit. I'm kind of torn between two. Like, I do love Eevee because it has all the lines of evolution, so you can always pick whatever you want. But I love Drifloon, mainly because it's just a ridiculous ghost Pokemon of what it does. Like, when I read the little Pokedex entry, it's like, "It takes kids to the underworld because they pop balloons and killed us all." I'm like, "This is awesome." It's bizarre, but it's cute at the same time. It has a little puff on its head, and it's a ghost. I don't know, it's just cool looking, so
Somebody the other night asked if he could replace their favorite Pokemon for favorite Digimon, which got me thinking about Digimon.
Oh, yeah, I
And I
do
don't
love
know that I
Digimon too.
have a favorite Digimon.
I'm trying to think on that one. I do like the Vmon line that's from like the second gen because he just goes into like a bunch of different ones and merges. And then I might be biased because I like the color blue and more dinosaur looking things. So I like him a lot. I thought the second gen was kind of cool because you still had like the first gen in there of like, hey, they grew up and this is like the second one coming. So I thought that was kind of neat.
So you had mentioned earlier that you had wanted to get into the video game industry.
Mm.
Um, what was it about that industry that kind of drew you in, or is it just the fandom of gaming, or what led you to? I assume you're a programmer of some kind.
Oh no, I just animate.
Hmm. Okay, well, even better,
Just-
because I
yeah.
could talk. It's one of those things. Is like when I talk to people who want to get into video games, they're either animators or they're programmers.
Yeah, or you can have to like merge into both because it
Right.
it is a weird misconception because you think, okay, 3D animation, it's like art, right? With every other art, you should be able to do the whole thing, which some people can. They can do from the concept to the rigging to the programming to the coloring to the 3D model to the they can do all that, and there's amazing people out there. But normally for your big projects, it's a huge team of people, and visual effects is all mathematics and stuff. So not that great in math, but animating wasn't terrible. It just I missed drawing a lot. I really missed creating and just going on my tablet and just kind of like I can draw a circle without having to click, drag, do whatever. I can draw whatever I want like right now. But yeah, it was mostly like the fandom of games. I really liked creating just little worlds, and since gaming's kind of a type of escapism, it's like you want to escape into your own imaginary adventure, maybe things you can't do in real life, but this thing is happening. You can save it, or you can raise a whole like monster ranch or a whole farm of little creatures, and they're just all gonna fight and get powerful. Or like bug snacks, like you solve a mystery, but you're still catching like weird little creatures and stuff. So I did like the aspect that you're playing a story narrative for most games. I mean, granted, there's PvP only games that don't have a story, but the whole point is you're gaming with people you know. So it's a different type of socializing too. So I liked all those little aspects of it. Thought that was cool.
Right. I got Ryan and Richard and Sean in the comments, and everybody else out there. Say hi when you get here. If you have
Hey,
questions for Nicole, put them in the
Charmeleon's
comments and
awesome.
we'll ask
I
them.
do I do like him for red version. I picked my boy Charmander, so he'll always be an old favorite of mine.
Absolutely. So when you were studying animation, what kind of software were you using? Were you into was it After Effects kind of thing, or were you using something like what's the new one? Slicer? I just saw
Oh, no,
somebody sent me
ours was
one.
on Autodesk Maya. So that one is like a whole package of you can
Hmm.
rig, 3D model, texture light, and animate in there. Of course, like now, I mean, that was about, oh God, what is it? Almost 20 years ago. I really don't, yeah, almost 20, no, 10 years ago. That's right. I'm thinking not 20, 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, where, we only have maybe a few programs, but now we have like a ton more. And then I know Autodesk bought out some other companies. So now they have a bigger bubble of things you can do. Because there's Blender, which is free, and then you have Unity if you really want to program to games. So uh, mine was more, I think, movie oriented at the start, and then towards the end, I was like, man, I should have gone into gaming. I think that would have been a lot more fun.
This is how old I am. When I was studying animation for the first time, uh, Autodesk's 3D Studio Viz was their only 3D animation tool, and you had to download a specific plugin to get it to not be an architectural tool.
Oh God, it
Oh, it
sounds
was
awful.
awful.
Considering how much Maya crashes, or it crashed back in the day, I mean, like, I hope it's a more stable program, but like, it made me miss Photoshop because I'm like, yeah, Photoshop can crash, but Maya would crash like you could just have the program sitting open for like a minute too long and it'll just close, and you're like, great,
Yeah,
there
no.
goes my work. Got to save every 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, no. I can remember that it was like this huge thing where you could animate water coming out of a fountain,
Hmm.
and then they're like, "Hey, here's this plugin, so you can like make people walk." And I'm like, "Great, but how is this relevant when you're sending this to somebody who's studying animation for film?"
Yeah.
Like,
It's
oh,
just
I can make people walk. Great. That's not at all what I want.
right. It's like you do learn those basics, but at the same time, it's like you have to have like a lot more involved into that. Like, I didn't realize how much acting helps, right? Because you have to video record yourself a lot to do facial expressions, especially when you're doing like talking dialogue. You'd be surprised how much expression you hold in your face, even in just your eyes. There's so much that can go on in here that can tell a story that you wouldn't know unless you like watched yourself do it, and you're like, huh, I learned something new today.
Yeah, no, it's I had to it'd been 15 years since I'd animated anything.
Mhm.
When we launched the experience, I had to basically take myself back to school on animation because it's changed so much.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. I haven't touched it in 10 years. So when people are like, "Oh, you're an animator," I'm like, "Well, I used to be. I don't have the programs or the money for those things anymore." I'm almost like afraid to touch it because it's like
Right.
so much. And now, you can do even more with that 3D stuff because now we have 3D printing. Where if you're a 3D modeler, you can 3D print
Hmm.
now too. You can do all sorts of stuff with that.
So we're gonna come back to this because I'm fascinated
Mhm.
about this part of it. But Sean wants to know, would you ever want to draw your own comic or possibly sell some of your drawings as original art?
Oh yeah, totally. For a while now, I've had this idea like in the back of my head. I have notebooks everywhere of like little ideas that I want to do for a comic, but I don't have a huge experience as far as drawing comics goes because I love I think his name it's George Jimenez that does a lot of the DC, like
Hmm.
the newer Batman stuff. Like I love his style. It's really actiony. It has like a lot of great line work. It's not stagnant. Like here's a panel, here's a panel, here's a panel. It's like coming in at all these directions. So before I even want to start on this, I'm like, I want to be on that level. But I'm torn between two things. I can do that way, or I can do these cute little things behind me. And I kind of stuck with the cute things.
That
So it's like a super future thing. Like, hey, maybe 10 years from now, and I'm like, okay, I can do this and not have to be like so afraid of my capabilities to draw. But I used to sell my originals uh, back when there was a place in Houston called Insomnia Gallery, but they moved, so I'm not able to sell originals over there anymore. They're just a little too far away for me to drive. But they used to have these art shows, and it would get me to draw again. So I would draw the different paintings for the show and things, and I'd sell them there. Like for example, this one. If I can get him out of my little shelf here. I had one where it's like a monkey that's fighting, and it was for something called like Cheap Date, and you would sell like cheaper, cute little drawings. So it was like a little monkey punching. I'm like, but nobody bought it, so I kept them. I'm not selling them anymore. But yeah, I'll sell some of my originals sometimes. But I'm mostly a digital artist now, so everything I do, I kind of think of, okay, I drew this thing. Can it be a sticker? Can it be a screen print? Can it be a picture print? Or there's all sorts of stuff you can make now. So eventually I'll go back to doing traditional again. It's just a good like change of pace every once in a while, but for sure.
Sure. But like just Phil Jimenez. There's so many of these great artists that you're talking about, but I'm with the chibi style you already do. I mean, Scotty Young, Katie Cook.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
you can still draw the cute stuff,
I know.
especially if you
I'm
draw
so
it cute but
torn on it
stabby.
because like I love really detailed styles like Berserk and all of that, and then I love like stupid, cute looking simple styles. So it's always that big torn for me. Like I would love to do a detailed anime kind of style, but I'm really slow. So I'm sure eventually when I keep drawing more and more, I'll get faster within
Oh, sure.
experience. So, but the cute stuff just comes more naturally. So I guess that's why I've just stuck with it.
Well, and something else that's interesting that like, and I can see it with your art style, is the board game and tabletop gaming world.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I have a few friends that work at some of those places, and they're always getting a bunch of artists doing that stuff. So it's cool to see.
yeah, because like I said, there's a kind of game for everybody, and there's a kind of art for every game. So, but if we go back to studying animation and some of this stuff, what if you had it to do over again?
Hmm.
And this is a question I ask myself like on the daily. If you had it to do over again, would you have specialized um in that, or would you have taken a more broad course? Um
So the only reason I would tell like if I could go back in the future and like tell myself something, the only reason I would say don't do it is because of student loans. So if there were no crippling student loan debt, then I'd probably be like, I learned something even though I'm not using it. It was hard for a while to like kind of tell myself like, hey, it's okay that you couldn't afford to move to California or you didn't super get into that industry, but you're in like a different industry now. So it's not terrible. I guess it's like how people say, "Well, I went to college for accounting, but now I I sell board games." And I'm like, "Well, that actually is better in my opinion."
yeah,
So,
right? It's
it's just stuff like that. Like I don't hate animation. It just I did not like how people were treated in the animation industry as
oh,
far
sure.
as like, hey, we don't want to pay you anything. You can be an intern, but you're going to work 40 hours or well, more than 40 hours actually. Or a lot of places will go bankrupt and they wouldn't get paid. I mean, or there's still good stories. I have some friends who, one of them, his name's Nate. He did the water effects for Moana. That was amazing. He's gone above and beyond in visual effects. I have a few that worked on Ghost of Tsushima, so that's like that video game. So it's great if you're like really into it, but it was too much for my health too. Like I'm like my body really needs like a schedule to sleep on. So, but I don't mind doing manufactured stuff because at the same time it's like wow, here's a physical thing I have made and it is mine now and it can
Right.
be worn somewhere and it can inspire somebody. So
I asked that question because I studied graphic design for media.
mhm.
Um I can't draw anything without a
Oh.
computer and a modeling software and 6 axes of design, like so it's I almost if I could go back in time, I would tell myself, "Hey, maybe take a 2D art class, take a intro to life drawing, something like so that you've
Oh,
got this skill
yeah,
set."
these days, you don't even need to go to school anymore to have, like, a
Right.
really good art mentor. You can find some really great artists. There's, like, Magic the Gathering artists, for example. They're like, "Hey, I'm opening up a 20 people course one-on-one for, like, let's say, a grand or a little less," and that's huge to get one-on-one like that instead of going to school and paying, like, 80 grand or or something. But yeah, I too actually was into a graphic artist before I
Mhm.
went to college for animation. I mainly did animation because I was like, well, I already know graphic design, like a lot of it. I did it like ton of it since I was like 12 or 13. And I'm like, well, I want to get a degree in something I have zero idea about, that it's so hard to get like free information on and stuff. So, I mean, it's cool to kind of look into the glass of how it's made, but I think I would have chosen concept art if I could go back, because in that way, like I'll know anatomy more to draw better, right? Or like more better tricks and stuff. But hey, now that we got better, easy access education, you can kind of go to school. You can just get that experience because that's all they want now. So just always keep on drawing.
Right. So let's talk about produced things though,
Okay.
because that is the direction that you've taken this, and
Yes.
I think it serves you really well. I mean, I love I've bought stickers and pins from Miss Jen of yours.
Oh,
So
sweet. Thank you.
yeah, although there's one on here I've never seen in her store that I'm gonna have to order.
Oh, which one's that one? I know I'm really slow about adding stuff to my store, but
It
for her.
says "Yeet yourself."
Oh, yeah. So the fun thing with that story is the Lumi company I used to work for before they like retired. That was our last project, was to make these sour heart pens, because my supervisor, he really hates Valentine's Day. He's like, just make these really sarcastic pins and stuff. So I made all these kind of mean sayings on them. We sold them to Hot Topic for a short time, and then I had a small batch of samples that I get from everything I would make. So we went all out since it was the last project. So we made this cool packaging that looked like the little candy heart boxes and the pin in there. So yeah, at the time when the meme with all about yeeting yourself was still popular, I had to explain it to him, like, just kids get it. I promise you, just make this one.
There's a RPG out there called Roll to Yeet
It
that came out of that same thing that I just in my brain it's the same. Like
is.
I'm all about it.
Thank you.
So, but like when we talk about pins and stickers and stuff, what is when you're putting that stuff together, do you worry about the color process, or do you just draw it and figure out that layering later?
Oh, it's, since I kind of already know like the limitations of color, it I guess it's just kind of automatically like put into the design. So, but I mean, you always start with line art, and as long as everything is like line arted, like sectioned out, then you can easily do any colors you want. I love color. I have all sorts of books about color, color theory, color grouping, and I do love those like older screen prints where they'd use just like 3 colors and it would still look fantastic. Like you actually don't need a million colors. You can make great things with just 2 colors, honestly. So, but you can always have that like in the back of your head, especially if you're doing like a series, to have kind of a color palette selection. So you're not all over the place and everything is kind of harmonious together. So it fits.
Yeah, no, I worked for a minute doing screen printing in a binder factory, which is just a weird
Yeah, I would not think that's
number
where
of
it would
things to
be.
put together, right?
Yeah.
But it would be shocking how often we would get orders for vinyl stickers, because that was part of what we did.
Mhm.
And they would have no layer slicing, they'd have no color, and it's a 4-color process to make that stuff. At least that's what we did. And they would have no concept of color theory, that, hey, I'm working in CMYK and you're sending me this thing in RGB.
Oh
We're
God,
in real
yes.
trouble here.
Yeah, CMYK does not like purple. Like it gets even
No.
like Pantones. You look, you have that perfect purple, and Pantone's like, no, we only have 2 hues of like purple, and then it just drops off. Meanwhile, we have like a gajillion shades of yellow, and I'm like, they all look the same.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's do you have did you have to buy the Pantone books when you were in
So,
school,
I didn't have to,
or
because with
ever?
animation, yeah, you didn't need Pantone books. But when I was self-learning graphic design, I didn't know about Pantone until I worked for a different company where we did more printing. And I'm like, "What is this?" And they're like, "What do you mean you don't know Pantones?" I'm like, "Well, show me this book." And It's easy to learn, but once I learned how much those books were, I was like, oh,
Well,
I'm glad I can borrow these.
not only do they cost a bunch, but they kill like an entire rainforest. They weigh like 65 pounds. I have them in the other room weighting down a shelf.
Oh my god,
Keeping
see,
a
you
shelf
have the
down.
huge case then, right, that comes with, like, every single one. Yeah, we if I was lucky at a place I work, they would have the case, but some places would just have one book, and you can tell it was old, and they wouldn't even replenish the book because it tells you, well,
Mhm.
after about 5 years, you should get a new book, especially when the colors are fading. It's like, we're just gonna make our best
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So w- can't believe we just had this long of a conversation on Pantone. Um, for those of you who don't know Pantone, be grateful.
Yes. Be very grateful
Uh,
because it's different on your screen. That's why
mhm.
you need the little picture book because grays, for example, when we were doing those heart pins, I didn't have a book at the time because I was freelancing it. So my supervisor would send me chips in the mail, the Pantone chips blocks, and be like, hey, this is what that gray actually looks like. And I'm like, wow, why is it two completely different colors on the screen? Like, this is definitely blue gray dark, and this is a light gray warm. Uh,
Right. No, I mean it's I'm getting triggered. Um, so what does the process of making an enamel pin look like? I mean, I know
okay.
other people who do it, but I've never bothered to ask. So if you're going to make an enamel pin of one of your designs, what does that process look like start to finish?
So you should, always get a few couple of sketches of your design, normally like a good silhouette. When you're making your design, you do have to put a few things into mind as far as like cut holes, because they can cut like in your shape, right? So if you have, let's say, like a letter O and you want to cut the middle of the O, it can't be too small, otherwise it won't cut. And if your lines are too thin of the metal could break. So you have to have a good separating factor when you're cutting. Kind of think about it like a cookie. Like if you're making a cut inside of a cookie, if it's too thin, it's going to break. Or if it's too small, the cookie's going to like bloat into the hole that was there. Uh, then after you kind of get your initial good design, have a nice clean line art, or there's different ways you can do it. There's some that you can have a circle. You can just have a circle pin and you can screen print your rest of your design on the pin. If you have too many colors that you can't fill, because normally with enamel pins, you're limited to about 6 or 8. It depends on your manufacturer. Same with glow in the dark. That they also have different glow in the dark colors, and even glitter. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. Then there's two types. You have soft enamel and hard enamel, and it's easy to get confused because you would think hard enamel would be the one that like it's like divoted in, like you can see these creases in there, but that's soft enamel. Hard enamel is the one where it's like all one layer. You see those the most common. They look a little cleaner, but they're more expensive. Uh, and then when you have your nice liner, then you just go pick out your 6 or 8 colors that you do in the Pantone book, because most manufacturers are going to ask you where your Pantones, and they're going to Pantone copy it or at least do their best to do so. So if you're only looking at your screen Pantones, sometimes the gray one I was mentioning, they can be off. So it might be a little bit of a surprise. And then you can ask for epoxy, which is, I don't know which one. That's kind of like clear glue that goes over it. It kind of protects it a little better. And then that's what they screen print on. So they'll normally have like an epoxy coating that's really thin. And then if you want screen print, which is extra charge, then they'll make a little screen print design on top. So the benefit to screen printing is you don't need like a border around your screen print because it just goes like on top like a sticker. So you can do some really cool designs like that. I've seen a lot of people just like add little stars or something really tiny in detail that you can't really do with your line art because it'll get too blotchy when they make the metal, and they'll just screen print it on. It looks fantastic. And Then you can choose the backings for your pins. I personally like the rubber ones because, like, if you put them on a hat, they don't hurt your head. Or the metal ones, I mean, they're the same. They stay on longer, but you have that metal piece, and if you do put it on a hat, it might dig into your head a little bit. But that's pretty much it. Then you just have to wait about how many ever weeks it takes for it to come overseas, to come over here, and sometimes they're stuck in customs for 2-3 months, and just gotta hope they don't get lost, because that's been the issue recently. So yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend who was an artist he had this idea for an enamel pin that were all the wands from Harry Potter.
Oh, that's cool.
Which was cool, except he didn't think to break the colors out properly into actual Pantones and replicable colors. So he gets it back, and it looked like a giant brown square. And he goes, "Why is this not working?" I go, and I look at his drawing, I look at the pin, I look at his drawing, I look at the pin, I go, "Because this is the same as this." He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "You need this to be real colors, and that's not."
No.
And yeah, it's the things you don't think about, right?
Right, and it's just a learning process for sure.
So when you're going through the process of taking a piece of art that you've created and having it manufactured into things, be it stickers, be it I see iron-on or sew-on patches, there's hats, which I'm a little bummed because the hat I would want is sold out right now.
Okay, I might actually have 2 more. I have to re-look in my closet. I'm really bad about, I put inventory away, and let's say I took it to a show and then I put it away somewhere else. It's almost like I hide my own inventory for myself. I've stored it really well, so no cats can get to it, no dust. And then I find it like a year later, and I'm like, oh my God, I still had these. Surprise! There's a restock, but I can't actually order more of those hats because they discontinued that hat color, which is a real bummer because the gradient was just so cool. I've contacted the manufacturer of those, and they're like, "Well, we don't carry them anymore. They didn't sell." And I'm like, "I will buy them." Please.
No. But when you do that, when you're taking a piece of art that you've made and you're having it manufactured, what is that process? So, like, do you go to a catalog and say, "Oh, these are all the things that I can stick my logo on or stick my design on"? Or when you start drawing something, do you think, "You know what? This is going to be really dope as a beanie"?
It's mostly the second one, because I did your first part at one point, but then I'd get too caught up on like what it needs to go on and not like having fun with the design. Because I mean, I'd get lost. Like, I'm searching for this one design that'd be great to have this on, but I can't find it. Or worse, you find it, but the cost per unit is like, you must buy 500 of these for it to be $10 a piece, and then you're kind of at square one. So I've just been kind of going around, like, as long as I draw something really clean and high res, I can use it for something later. And it will normally always at first be a sticker, because stickers can be anything. There's not really limitations to it. Stickers can be thousands of colors. They can be 2 colors, glow in the dark, shiny. So I'm kind of leaning towards those 2 at the moment because they are cheaper to make, and I use Rockin' Monkey for stickers now. They're based in San Antonio. They've been really awesome in terms of their quality of stickers and stuff. So, but yeah, that will mostly be the thing. And then I can brainstorm, wow, I made this design. Maybe I can duplicate it, make something else with it. And then now it's on a bag and it looks better. And you'd never know it came from the one thing on the sticker. So stuff like that.
Ship, we talked about that. And it's one of those things. It's like when we talked about it, she said, Nicole brought it up, that it's kind of prohibitive. Finding someone to manufacture it, then get it here, and then have it be quality and have it look right. It's kind of tough to do a plushie. So here, this is kind of what I'm getting down to here with asking these questions. Is if someone were to come to you and say, "Hey, I see that you've got, this, face mask with your logo on it, or, stuff like that." What would you tell people who are thinking about doing stuff like this in terms of, "Hey, don't," or, "Hey, if you're gonna do this, what's one piece of advice you'd give?" And I'm asking only because I've been tasked with developing the experience swag,
Hmm.
and my answer was maybe just have Nicole do it. Maybe
Hey, I
just
won't
hire
mind you
Nicole.
paying me.
Uh,
um, so the best advice I could give is, if you know your audience, then you'll kind of know what to make. Because you in the beginning, you're going to do a bunch of trial and error things. So like there's stuff that I have that I've made, but it hasn't sold at all. But then I'll make other stuff and I'm like, okay, so my audience really likes stickers and t-shirts and pins. So I will keep going with that. Where maybe they weren't so into patches, or maybe I just need to make a few more to see like what kind of style they like for so said patches, or uh, things like that. Because you don't want to go too over the place. You still want to have like your kind of niche of stuff, but you don't want to be like, hey, I've been making stickers, t-shirts, pins, and keychains and all this stuff, but then out of the blue of nowhere, you just start doing like candles, I guess, or maybe stuff for cars, and it's a different like just theme that you've been doing. It might do well. That'd be great, but don't expect it to like instantly be like your best selling thing, because your customers are going to have this, I don't know what the terminology is called, but they get kind of surprised in a weird way of like, oh, this is different. They might want it or they might not want it and be like, well, I don't really need that. I just want your
right.
stickers, you know. Like, that's all
Hmm.
they want to have. So but I
Yeah.
mean, it's also fun too if you just want to like, if you get a good deal on something, like yeah, let's say I know what's starting to be popular-ish, or those like license plate borders that I see some people make. If you see a good deal on one of those, maybe one of your manufacturers that you have emails on, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try it, as long as you're not putting too much of a money sink into it to where you're not going to get it all back out.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. So, all right. I like to ask everyone questions they couldn't possibly be prepared for,
hmm.
and I'm preparing you by telling you that. Uh, so I usually start with, well, who's your favorite Pokemon? But we already had that conversation.
Yep, that one I've been kind of ready because that new game is coming out, and
Hmm.
I've been very hyped about it. So,
So, is there a character
mhm.
or a property of some kind that you would just love? You would drop everything to get a chance to work on.
Okay, it'd be torn really between like working something Nintendo or Monster creative related, like it was like Monster Hunter or Digimon Pokemon, like that realm, or right now my favorite game to play is Genshin Impact. So if I got to work on that, I mean that'd be awesome. But like their designers are really good, but it'd still be really cool. I'd be like, I did something for my favorite thing and I made it, you know. So
There's
that would be awesome.
there's a girl I know named Adrian Droughty who studied 3D animation and stuff, but she wound up getting an opportunity she does 3D modeling for Disney toys. Like that's her whole gig now.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's totally a job. Like people don't think about it, but like 3D modelers, because that's a whole realm of their own. You don't need a rig if you're a 3D model. I mean, you could, but you don't have to. If you 3D model, you can do that exactly like the toys and stuff. A lot of people need those more than animators, sadly. But
Yeah,
it has a lot more opportunities than you would think. But that's a
yeah,
really cool
absolutely.
job.
And I can see you doing that with Nintendo. I'm gonna put it out there like it's the secret. I'm gonna manifest it for you.
If only I enjoyed 3D modeling. I'm really sorry,
Well,
guys.
but designing consumables.
Oh yeah, like definitely doing like, hey, here's a sketch of this. We can turn it into this. Which I will say the Pokemon store and stuff, their merchandise has finally gone beyond of like, here is the same default Pikachu art we
Pikachu,
have been
yeah.
using for the past 10 years.
Mhm.
Pikachu finally has other poses and
Right.
costumes and stuff. It's like, great. Finally, we're not the standard clip art of the same picture over and over again. I have actually done stuff for Snoopy, that franchise.
Ooh.
So it is, and I guess I should take it back. I have done stuff for Nintendo, but not in that aspect. It'd be like, hey, make us a packaging for this series of Nintendo stuff, but you have to follow this book. So most properties give you this big old style book, and back then it used to be on CDs and flash drives, probably on a cloud somewhere, but you had to follow the book. So that year of packaging, it had to meet the exact criteria. And same with Star Wars. I think in 2012 they had a Darth Maul themed packaging, and so we did flash drives, and I had to use their style guide to match it up. And it'd be really strict because you'd have to have like Darth Maul needs to be 60% in this size, and this font needs to be exactly this percentage. And I think it took me like 20 tries to perfect that packaging because it was so like 5% more smaller, just 2% more. And I'm like, just give me the dimensions or
Right.
something to make it
Packaging design
easier.
is ridiculously hard.
Yeah, it
Um,
especially if you have to make it from scratch. If you have to do the whole box from scratch, it can be a nightmare because you don't you can 3D model it, but normally they want you to have a big flat. And
mhm.
then you have to measure it out yourself and then cut it yourself out of paper from home, try to put it together and be like, this is gonna work. This bleed is gonna make sense, right? And then when it gets submitted to print, you hope that everything looks okay. And then you can breathe and it'll be
See, it's funny. I think I was probably about 5 to 7 years ahead of you going through these things for myself because I did packaging design back in the day for, when Vans actually used to sell skateboard merchandise,
okay.
Vans logo on it, like, when you could buy actual bearings at a Vans store. They wanted a certain kind of logo design and a certain kind of packaging design that I did as one of my first jobs out of college.
Oh, that's awesome.
But they sent you their branding book, and it was that thick,
Yep.
that wide, and it's, "Okay, now what page are my colors on?" And then my next job after that was I was designing the branding book for SanDisk, the
Oh,
portable
cool.
hard
So,
the
yeah.
hard drive company, when they were getting into the MP3 player game
I had one of those.
before iPod killed everyone. Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's funny to hear you say things, I'm going, "Oh, man, I haven't thought about that terrible project in so many years." Um,
Yeah, I don't do those anymore either. That was like so it feels like forever ago, but you're like, yeah, that was also just around 10 years ago. Cause that was I would consider my first like, oh, real job like after college, you know. Like, yeah, you do some side jobs here and there, but then when I got to do that, I was like, I'm doing the real thing. And then I do it and I'd be like, huh, so you don't just get to make whatever you want to do with Mario characters. You have to use their huge library of images and then make something out of it and then hope that they like it. And if they don't, then it's
nope,
not going anywhere.
right, absolutely. So, okay, um, Ultimate Nerd Garage. You get
Ooh.
one car and one spaceship from all of pop culture.
Okay, so even though this is not like a nerdy car, I do really want one of those Stingray cars that I see every so often. I just like the body shape and it has a Stingray on it. But if it had to be a nerdy vehicle, it'd probably be something Jurassic Park themed. I know people like create their own, but like I'd still want mine to look like any one of those cars, like the Jeeps, but not the open Jeep per se, because in
That's how
Texas,
you get eaten by
yeah.
a dinosaur?
That, or the rain just falls on you when it's not even supposed to be raining today. And you're like, that's
Mhm.
fantastic. But what was the other part? Like a spaceship?
Spaceship.
Hmm, that's a hard one. Do Gundams count as spaceships? You can be in one and they
Gundam
go into
will allow it.
space? Okay. I definitely would want one of those. I do like the Astray model. It's like a red and white one that has like a sword, but they just look badass. I'm like, yeah, that'd be my space vehicle. At least I can fight in it. I mean, well, most space vehicles you can, but you can
Right.
actually like fist fight with the thing. So
Yeah, if I'm going to allow an Ava to be a spaceship, I'll have to allow a Gundam to be a spaceship.
hey, that's true. True.
Okay. You're stuck on a desert island with the professor and Marianne, so you have electricity,
Hmm.
and you don't know how long it's going to be until the Globetrotters come and rescue you. So essentially, you're Gilligan. But you could take one record or one album, one book, and one movie. And because we've talked about video games so much, I'll say one video game.
One video game. Then I would have that. Then when that'd be even better. I'd have my own system with me. Oh, then I'd get a TV and everything. Let me think. Well, the funny thing, I know you say like I know where Marianne's reference from, but that's my mom's name. So I'd be like, oh, I'm on an island with my mom, so not so bad. That's so terrible at all. Let's see, record. That's a hard one too because like right now, like I don't listen to artists as much because when I'm drawing, I need to be in like a kind of calm zone, or even when I'm in the car, I need to listen to lo-fi and hip hop because of traffic. It's like I just need to chill, but I don't know any lo-fi hip hop albums. I do like the last Panic at the Disco CD that came out, so maybe that one because it still kind of bumps in my head a few times. Movie, it's gonna be the first Jurassic Park. I can't pick anything else. It's such a childhood like thing for me. It's just too good. Video game. I almost want to pick a PlayStation game because then I could just have PlayStation with me. But I mean, I could just pick Pokemon because then it would take if I got one of the newer games, not Sword and Shield because not all of them are in there. Maybe Sun and Moon. Then it preoccupied my time because then I could just shiny hunt and spend like the next thousands of hours trying to get some shiny starter or whatever. But I can always time sync those games so much. It's just like Animal Crossing. I can just chill, and of course that would be ironic. I'm stuck on an island while playing my island Animal Crossing. Just gonna make my paradise in my game instead of in real life around me. Yeah, I'd be really torn between those two. I guess probably Pokemon because you can really play that single player. The newer one's a lot more for Animal Crossing. It was a lot of fun with my friends getting able to like, oh, you want to come over? You have a DIY? What? I want that one. And trade all the items you have. Did I miss anything?
A book.
A book. I'm really bad and I haven't read a book in a long time.
It can be a comic book.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Trying to think what.
And if you say the Pantone books, I'm going to end this interview now.
It's like you just get one and be like, read every single number every day.
Well, you'd have enough paper to keep yourself in fire for a really long time.
That's true. All while inhaling the color chemicals from the pages. I know it's gonna sound weird, but I have not. There's certain Batman comics I haven't read, and even though I think I finally got. There's like a Batman black and white one that Jim Lee did. I just got recently, so I probably want to read something new. And even if then it'd be like, hey, it's new. I've never read it. That I've heard it's good. I have it with me. That or Saga. I really want to like have one of the huge compendium of. Actually, probably that. I really want to get into Saga, but I want
the
that
second person to say Saga.
The giant $80 book. I don't know. It's probably more than that, and it's like every single one. I'm like, cool. It's a dictionary, but a comic. So I like that.
Yeah, you're the second person to say
Batman
Saga.
Noir. That one, Richard. That's a good one. And also, thank you, Sean. I didn't get a chance to say that.
So, okay. Last couple minutes. Where can people follow you on the internet? Where can they support you? And where can they buy your stuff?
Sweet. So I have two Instagrams actually. One of them is my semi-personal one. Just because I use it to draw whatever I want. I don't have to care about, oh, it doesn't match my brand, or whatnot. And then I post more, not reels, the stories on there of like whatever game I'm playing. That one's Des Fernandez, so it's literally my last name, but we took the D-E-Z and we just put it to the front. So DEZFERNAN. And then my taco one, which is my brand, Bad Taco. It's Bad Taco Shop on Instagram. It's technically on Twitter, but I don't use Twitter. I just took it before anyone else could take it. And then badtacoshop.com is where you can buy the little merch that I have on there so far. I'm going to try my best to update it before Jen's show Saturday, because I don't have my sweaters on there yet or a few new stickers, but I am taking inventory so I could add those properly. So yeah, everyone will finally get that sweater that Jen's been wearing. So
yeah, she's been plugging that hard.
I'm so thankful, because that was one of my more expensive projects, but I really just wanted, it was one of those, because when you do make your own stuff, make sure that, here's another good piece of advice, make sure you're making stuff that you also like. Like, don't make something that you make it and you hate it, like, oh, I made this character, but I don't really like this series, and I definitely don't like, I don't know, maybe you're not a good print collector, and then you just start making prints of it. Well, then you're stuck with all of them and stuff. So this one, I really wanted a hoodie that had pockets in the front, because a lot of pullover hoodies, they don't. So this was also half a, like, I really want this for myself thing, and I'm sure people will love the little character I keep making over and over. So it just, both happy mediums. So.
Awesome. So thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Oh,
everybody stay.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go to badtacoshop.com, buy the stuff. She'll be on Jen's show this weekend. And we've got to get out of the way. Refresh this page right now if you're here. Miss Jen is on right now with Bean in their interview. So make sure you stick around for that. And we will see everybody next time here on the EXP Expo.
Bye, guys. Thank you all.